Listen up! There is a storm coming! Like nothing you have ever seen!
Howdy, beautiful people. Oh, look, we're looking a bit light on here tonight, or maybe the whole system's just a bit laggy. I'm sorry I'm running a tad late. Just been one of those nights. Darren Bergwerf was coming on to have a bit of a chat, but things have got the better of him. Unfortunately, he can't join us. Who was first in? Paul in tonight. Thanks, Paul. Nice to have you in, mate. Chris is back in town. J.I., Peg, and the Salty Convict. Pete, how are you, buddy? Hope things are good in Itinerary, beautiful part of the world, which hope to be visiting at some stage, maybe next month. So Itinerary, of course, in South Oz, and we're heading that way. In fact, we're going to be making quite the run, and I've been sitting here today trying to put it together. There are so many my places, and such little time. There is an event happening at Uluru at the moment, which is a significant thing for our First Nations people. All the men from Australia have been called to Uluru for a yarning circle or a get-together, and they're painting a large painting. Every member gets to add their little piece of painting, and then that painting, I assume, well, I don't assume, I know, is going to be of some significance. Why are we doing this? Well, these are the lawmen of the nation, of our tribal nation, and they're all coming together because they were the ones who weren't invited to the Uluru Statement of the Heart meeting, or if they were railroaded and coerced into going along with the bureaucratic angle of how that was all working. And that we know now exactly the plan for all of that. Well, this get-together, this yarning circle and this painting will, from my understanding of what I've been told, override the Statement of the Heart. And that's my sister, who I'm going to have to call back. So, yes, it will override the Statement of the Heart from Uluru. And how that actually is going to be enforced once again is probably the question that I ask the most in any of these sort of things. But at any rate, we might wind up there yet. And I was having a conversation with Darren Bergwerf. He's very keen to get there too. So we might pick him up on the way through. Or we might pick him up in Adelaide. Manham, we are coming your way. I was speaking to some folks in Victor Harbour today. They're very keen to get us down that way. So if you live, well, I know the folks in Manham are keen, but if you're down Victor Harbour way, or if you are in Adelaide, bear in mind, I'm going to be pretty big, going to need somewhere to pull up. But we might just find a park somewhere, whatever works, and have a barbecue by the beach, whatever. I don't mind. But we'll catch up. We'll tell your stories, and we'll tell the truth. We'll find honesty, and hopefully we'll build community. From unity comes community, and I couldn't agree more with the sentiment from my place on that. So I was having a bit of a look, as I say, today, rolling through the time frame of places I need to be. Now, probably the first place I would like to be is going to be, at least in Victoria, the first place I would like to be in October is going to be at this event in Bacchus Marsh. Now, I've had the pleasure of meeting Ulukai before. This is going to be an evening, I believe, of some note. And if you happen to be anywhere within a bull's roar of Bacchus Marsh, beautiful part of the world, out there on the Western Freeway. If you want to go along, then there are the details for that one, the Big Apple Cafe in Bacchus Marsh, Friday the 6th of October. Now, I am aiming to get there. For Bex from Truth Seekers has invited me. It's one of their events, and I'm very keen to catch up with Becky and the crew from there and have a bit of a chat about what we might be able to do going further forward. So my goal is to get there. But can I tell you, the good Lord, in all his wisdom, is presenting me with some challenges. And when I say me, I'm talking about the company. We are being hit with all sorts of challenges, shall we say. Part of the deal for the vehicle that you know nothing about yet, but I will tell you, part of the deal that came with it was a trailer, which was meant to be useful for taking my car and taking it, or in fact, a little smaller car, taking it around and being able to get around when we get to different places. You see it all the time, and it seemed to be no different for us. Now, unfortunately, my car doesn't fit on the friggin' trailer we had to buy. And that's probably because this trailer is pretty specific, and me not being terribly smart, didn't really look at all the ins and outs. I got a bit excited about the potential for it and didn't bother doing too much by way of measurement of it. It didn't really matter in the end. They wouldn't have split the deal up, so we had to take it regardless. But now I'm trying to sell a trailer. So if you're in the market for a very heavy-duty trailer that is more a toy hauler than a trailer, then I might be able to help you. Carl at vofhq.com. I'll give it to you for what we paid for it or less. And this is a very, very good trailer. Can I just tell you, it's got 2 decks. You can put a tinny on it, maybe a 3.5 meter tinny, might even go to 4 meter tinny up there. I'm not sure. You can put that on, and then underneath that, you can put your ATV or your side-by-side or a heap of motorbikes, or if you have a very thin little car like a Suzuki, you know, one of those Jimneys or an older one, even a Sierra, right? Those sorts of things. I think a Daihatsu Terios will fit in the gap. Unfortunately, given the size of me, while the doors will open, they probably don't open far enough to get me out of the vehicle. And my Starsky and Hutch and Dukes of Hazzard days climbing through the windows are well behind me. The trailer is, she's a good length. She's over 6 meters long. It has a huge storage area in the front of it, enough to put a very large generator or a compressor. It has solar, which is running into an inverter, so there's charge points inside that storage area as well. The storage is split into 2 sides, the left and the right. The passenger side, if you like, has a roll-out fridge slide on it and a whole heap of drawers, which would have been really helpful. And a workbench on that side too. Once again, really helpful for what we were planning. Unfortunately, the friggin' car doesn't fit. So we find ourselves in a position where we need to sell the trailer and buy another trailer. It needs to be 3.5 ton trailer. And because we're going to need to be carting a little bit of extra gear with us. And I'm afraid the car that I have, a Hyundai Tucson, is about a bit over 2,200 kilos GVM. So I'm going to need something that's closer to 3.5 because we're going to need that extra storage space. So if you are one of those people fortunate enough to have a lot of toys and you need 3 cars to pull them, can I tell you, I got a deal for you. It's fully rigged for solar, like I say. Got a big solar thing on the front of it and works. I've had it all going. It's got a nice battery set up on it. The inverter, as I mentioned, with USB charging ports, and all you really need to do is have a tinny and maybe some bikes or an ATV or a little Suzuki or something that will go on it nicely. I will do you a huge deal because at the end of the day, that money is going to be needed for fuel. And we've got to find some other way to cart my car around. No, can't put an A-bar on it. Hyundais don't tow like that, or at least not my model. So that's a pain in the ass for all, but yeah, contact me, Carl at vofhq.com if you want it. Pete, does the trailer have a barbecue as well? It doesn't at the moment. It did, I think, in the previous owner, but they removed it. So that's why the right-hand side is just a very large empty box, which, like I say, you could put a barbecue in. I was thinking more of putting generator, compressor, all that sort of thing, and they're big lock boxes. It's got a winch, got a 12,000 pound winch on it. Yeah, it's just a pain in the ass to get caught with it. So Put the word out, folks. If you know somebody looking for a toy hauler, because that's really what it does. And look, if it comes down to it, I'll give you a discount so you can buy your own smallish barbecue and stick it in there yourself. Maybe a little Weber. I've seen them on special recently, and I believe they're very good. Just saying. Who else is in the room tonight to say good day? J1's in. Sunflower, good evening. And the Galactic Larricans are in town too. Rob, got to call you. Need to have a discussion about next week, because next week we're going to be launching our vehicle. Got a little bit exciting today. I took it to the vehicle wrappers. Got a little bit less excited when I saw what they planned on wrapping it like. So we'll get a new design tomorrow. See how that goes. She might just turn up naked yet. But at any rate, we will be on the road. It doesn't matter at the end of the day what it looks like. It matters that we get the job done. So that will be the plan. And I will give you some progress reports, but no pictures as things progress along in that way. I also want to talk to Sparky Steve. Thank you, mate, for giving me a call. I've got your number. I've got it trapped. I can't do much with it at the moment. So, yeah, we will have a talk, though, and try and line something up probably after the 30th. And then we'll be heading off down south. That's going to be a journey. So if I can get to Bacchus Marsh by the 6th, that'll be awesome. A couple of other hard dates in there too. Wood End looks like we might be able to pop in and do a show there on the 9th or the 10th. So if you're in that area, go in there and say good day to the ladies running the joint and tell them that we might come down. 9th or the 10th, I've been told, are good days for them, so I would be happy with either. And then I think we're heading back up to Echuca for the 12th, so we might even be able to squeeze Shepparton in on the way past. Hello, Francis and crew. So, yeah, into the Terminus Hotel. What a beautiful pub. Great venue, great people. So, yeah, we might be able to call into Shepparton on the way up to Echuca, and then be in Echuca for the Ainsley Bullion meeting or presentation that's happening there on the 12th. Now, Michael and the team from Ainsley, Melbourne, I think, will be a part of all of that. Now, if you've ever wondered about how hard it is to buy gold and silver, what it really looks like, what are the reasons why you would buy it, then that is the day you want to attend. It'll be at the Rich River Golf Club at Echuca Moama. Beautiful golf club. I may not attend the presentation. I might be out playing golf, although only if the bloody knee improves, because not doing well on that at the moment. Yeah, so come to that one, Echuca. Now, let me think, where else were we talking about going? There are many, many things happening. There is an event on the 13th of October, which is my place, Frankston's first anniversary. So we're going to head to Frankston for the 13th. And then I have, let's call it a secret mission around Melbourne until the 18th. And then we will be heading in the general direction of South Australia around the 18th and making our way probably at this stage through Horsham. I'll probably head up the highway that way. And I've got a soft spot for Horsham. I used to work there many, many years ago. It was my... Well, I suppose it was sort of my third radio job, but it was with a radio network that I started my career with. I started at 3HA in Hamilton, and 3WM in Horsham was a sister station. But before I moved to 3WM in Horsham, I moved up to 4CC in Gladstone and then back to 3HA in Hamilton. Long and involved story. Worked in many places, but a lot of them around Western Victoria. Spent a lot of years around Victoria. Spent a lot of years in other parts of the world too, or other parts of the country at least. So there are certain parts I've never visited. For instance, I've never worked in a regional New South Wales radio station other than doing voiceovers. Quite a lot of the times, well, some years ago, I was fortunate enough to be doing voiceovers, what we call station voice work for radio stations between Melbourne and Cairns. Essentially, it didn't matter what commercial radio station you switched on, you would have heard me either doing station IDs and promos and that kind of thing, or you would have heard me reading commercials. So I've got a good affiliation with where all the radio stations are in New South Wales. Maybe I'll call past and wave. I can't see any of them offering me too many jobs at the moment. So thank you to the people Oh, you are such wags. Thank you to the people who put me in for the job at 4BC. I'm not sure if they're still looking for an afternoons announcer there, but an old mate of mine has just been given the mornings job. For many years now, quite, well, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years now, maybe more, Ray Hadley has been testing our ears in Brisbane on 4BC, on link out of his little palace down in Sydney. And you may have gathered that Ray and I, he doesn't ever recall meeting me, but we have met. We used to live in the same building, funnily enough, because Ray, while working in Sydney, has, I think he's sold it now, but used to have an apartment in a building in Main Beach. And I think he used to have the top 2 floors of it, if memory serves, and had a studio built in there for the days he didn't feel like he wanted to come back. May have spent most of that time where we were all locked up doing his show from there too. Anyway, we met in the lift one day. It wasn't good. Ray's been kicked out of Brisbane. I think it's great. And as far as programming decisions go, for Channel 9, who actually own 4BC, a television network, with television executives running it, although there is a sort of half-known radio bloke running around in there, they've made a bloody good decision. They've gone back to local programming from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. Well, I mean, actually, I would say from 6 a.m. because they do a local breakfast show. So 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Great. Nice to see live and local radio coming back to Brisbane, especially in talk radio. And congratulations to my old mate, Bill McDonald, the former Channel 10 and Channel 7 newsreader, who has picked himself up the gig doing mornings there. I wonder how tightly he'll have to keep his lips sealed. Just between you, me, and the gatepost. Yeah, keep the trailer, get a little buzz box that fits. Easier said than done. There's money involved, and I don't have enough to do the other one. Essentially, if there was somebody out there who already had a car with an A-frame engineered to it, the A-frames that you see towing vehicles around are engineered to the car. So you can't just go in and buy an A-frame and slap it on your car. It has to go through a certification process, and there's only certain places that do that. It is an expensive process. And essentially what it would mean is that I've probably got a trailer to the value of a 2010, maybe if I'm lucky, 2012 Suzuki on an A-frame. So those A-frames are sort of $3,000-$4,000, and then the engineering certificate's another $1,500 or more, and then there's the car. And then you've got to make sure the car's okay, the bearings, everything like that, because it's going to be dragging all those kilometers as well. So, to be honest, it would probably just be better to go and buy a trailer that fits, and then pray that we sell this one soon. Buying a trailer that fits is not cheap. I don't even know that it's possible, but I don't really at this juncture see any way out of it unless I can sell this trailer for essentially what we paid for it, or I'm happy to do a deal less, but for you guys, your family. But I'm not going to see any ripped off, and like I say, it's a good trailer. I would love to take it with me. But there just isn't any room on it for the stuff I need. It's got great storage, great everything. It's just not wide enough, which is an absolute bastard. Shattered me a bit, I've got to say. So a tad annoyed, but if you happen to know anybody who's up for a trailer or wants to donate one that I can drag around for the next month or so, then please let me know. We might be able to come to some sort of a deal while we're waiting for ours to sell. But we'll see how it all goes. We will be on the road regardless, even if that means I've got to put Galactic Larrikin Rob in my car and have him drive it behind me the whole way. Which will be good because he'd be in my car at least and I wouldn't have to smell him. But that's a whole other story. Shouldn't be saying things like that. It's a bit sad. So what else is there going on in the world today? Well, look, shock, horror, gasp, be horrified, be horrified. 2.5 million Australians doomed this summer. Well, if you are unlucky enough to be one of those 2.5 million Australians, you'd want to be, moving to somewhere else by now, wouldn't you? I mean, it's absolutely terrifying, the stories that are well, coming out. It's like we've never been through an El Nino or La Nina. Have I got them the right way around? Effect before. No, the biggest problem we have is the engineered fire danger that has been thrown at us from our skies. That's essentially what your roofs look like, right? Now, that's under a thermo camera, but on your roofs, as you saw if you watched last night's show, and I might play it again now. In fact, I will play it again now. So bear in mind, your roofs are copping some pretty weird shear.
Okay, I'm just going to see if this magnet picks up any of this dust particles that actually collected from my windscreen and my windows on my car. Now, if there's any metal to it, it will actually stick. Let's see if anything sticks. Well. There you have it. It's definitely metal.
I happen to know, Mick, and I know that car, and I know exactly where it's parked. It's parked under an awning, okay? It's parked under a sail. So whatever is getting onto its glass, and you saw, Mick...
What we're doing, we're just scraping all this stuff off my windscreen, because I haven't washed my car for a long time. It looks like dust particles, but I just want to grab a whole heap, and we're going to see if it's magnetizing, because this, I believe, is what they're spraying on us. So just bear with me for a second. As you can see what I'm doing, and the wind's a bit windy, so hopefully I can pick it up.
All right, you get the idea. So he's scraped that off his windows, which looked, other than being a bit dusty, all right. But as we've seen, takes it inside, and all of it reacts to a magnet, or 95% of it reacts to a magnet. Now, we know that certain metals can be very inflammatory. They can react with other metals or other substances. They can react very badly, causing heat, bursting into flames, starting fires, all that sort of stuff. The biggest thing, I think, that aluminium and barium, which are two of the things we are, I would say, 99.9% confident elements of what we've been sprayed with, not the only ones, but certainly some of them. These are fire accelerants. And bear in mind, once they're spraying us, they're spraying big wooded areas, the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast hinterlands, the Brisbane Valley, the Blackall Range in Queensland, and they're doing this everywhere. All right, they've been over you in some places. Poor people in Lismore and the Northern Rivers. I think the same aircraft has sprayed you guys over 40 times. It could even be more than that now, and that's only in the last 3 or 4 months. It is amazing. Now, we're saying sprayed. We don't know if they're being sprayed. Maybe they are doing survey work, because that's what they say they are doing. What sort of survey work? Well, they don't tell us any of that. We also know that some of those aircraft, for sure, do have spray nozzles attached to them. So this is unusual for something like a caravan, Cessna Caravan, I would have thought, but they do have this sort of technology. They might also be running some of the same sort of technology that's being put through our commercial jetliners, which is an additive that's being put into the fuel system or added into the engine in the exhaust phase, and it is blown out over the distance they need it. They pump however much of this fluid in there and gets energized by going through the jet motor, and then of course we see exactly what it does in a non-contrail kind of way, can we just point out, after the jet's pissed off. And over the next few hours, it goes from a beautiful day into a day of absolute shite. So, yeah, not very happy about that kind of thing at all. But that stuff is falling on your roof. That stuff is falling in your backyard. That stuff is falling on your cars, your property, your animals, everything else. It's falling in your drinking water. It's getting washed off your roofs and getting pushed straight into your tanks. It's being put into your animals in their drinking water. It's being put into the vegetables you're growing in the backyard and everywhere else, because it is indiscriminate where this is being sprayed. They cover everywhere. In fact, the only place I haven't seen them covering is the very, very inland of Australia. Funnily enough, Pine Gap features heavily in somewhere it's never been sprayed or surveyed. So, interesting times. So, Australia was called out. Let me share this one with you today. Australia was called out on the front page of the New York Times, shamed on our climate change slowness, dragging our feet. Oh, God, how horrible, horrible, horrible we are. The UN President Gutierrez, a Mexican who seems to know how to run the world but hasn't got any ability to stop the murdering in his own country or the drug cartels in his own country, seems to think it's okay to tell everybody in the world what they're doing. This is the ad. Thankfully, they've blurred it to a point where we can't actually read it. And the article, from what I recall, doesn't show all of it. It does show this smirking bitch. Now, her name is Polly. And Polly's very happy. Can't you tell by that look on her face? She's got that kind of, got you. So Polly Hemming is the director of Australia's Climate and Energy Program. Does that surprise any of you? I tell you what might surprise a few of you. Let me just remove that for a moment and put this up. This is a quote. Australia is already the third largest fossil fuel exporter behind Saudi Arabia and Russia. Let that sink in for a minute. Australia is the third largest fossil fuel exporter behind Saudi Arabia and Russia. Now, this is what's claimed by this, whatever her name was, Polly. Why are we paying $2.27, $2.37, $2.50 a litre for diesel or petrol in this country if we are the third largest exporter in the frickin' world? How does that work? Why are we getting boats shipped from friggin' Singapore full of fuel and we're paying an OPEC friggin' price dictated to us by the assholes out of Singapore? And we are the third largest exporter of fuel, fossil fuels, in the fucking world. Why are we letting this government get away with this shit? Why have we let previous governments get away with this shit? When are you going to stand up and stop this shit? Because we all have to stand up. The third largest exporter, not importer, exporter of fuel in the frickin' world. Do you know how much they're paying in Saudi Arabia for fuel? About 23 cents a litre. You know how much they're paying in Russia? A lot less. But oh no, we, dumb old friggin' Australian, just sit there and complain about pulling up at the pump and having to pay $200, $300, $400 to fill up and do fuck all about it. This has to stop. The people who control this, the people that we supposedly elected, and I know we didn't, but the people that we have placed our trust in to do the right thing by us, the nation, the people of this nation, are robbing us friggin' blind. When are you going to stand up? When are you going to throw them out? And you might be asking yourself, how? There are ways. There are good, lawful ways. Nobody's picking up the pitchforks here. But this has to stop. So ask yourself, what have you got that you could contribute to bring the government undone? What could you do? Because you're only one person. I'm only one person. What could you do? Bear in mind that whatever you choose to do will either have an impact on things like our outrageous fuel prices, or they will just keep getting more outrageous if you choose to do nothing. Welcome to freedom, folks. Welcome to making a decision. Welcome to having a choice. Welcome to understanding the consequences of your choice and acknowledging them. So ask yourself, what could you do, just one person, to help this movement, to help bring an end to the tyranny coming from those that we thought were there to look after and protect our interests? What have you got to offer? What have I got to offer? Well, as it turns out, Darren Bergwerf gave us the key to all of that last Friday night. We withdraw our services. Now, if you've been following me or anybody else for the last few years, you no doubt have prepped. You're ready. If the EBS happened tonight, you wouldn't have to step outside for 10 days or more, would you? So why don't we do it? Why don't we try it? Why don't we put all that just about out-of-date stuff that we've been hanging on to for years to the test and shut ourselves down? No work, no nothing, no bills, no nothing. Don't support big business. Don't buy petrol for 10 days because you're not going anywhere. Why will you need it? Okay, 10 days. Is that enough? Maybe it's not. Maybe it needs to be a month. Could you withdraw your services for a month to undo the tyranny that's happening with us? And could you convince your neighbours to do the same? When you find out that we are the third largest exporter of fossil fuels on this planet, and the other countries that are exporting, number one and number two, Saudi Arabia and Russia, are paying cents in the dollar, and we're paying $2, I think I saw today, $2.37 a litre. How much of that is government excise, folks? Go and look it up. I haven't, but go and have a look. I guarantee you it'll be about, well, probably more than 50%. So we have to stop this. But what can we do as people? Well, we can band together and do nothing. They require our labour. They require our services. They require our intellectual ability. They require our skillfulness. They require our trade skills for everything. So, fuck them. Why don't we just sit down and tear through that ration pack that's just about to go out of date? Start at 10 days. Maybe you can go longer. Maybe there's a movement we can create. Maybe it will go much bigger, much broader. Maybe you won't have to go outside to vote that day coming up in October and not feel bad about not doing it. There's a lot of talk about that at the moment. Interesting chat last night with Ricardo. Not that I had an interesting chat with Ricardo. He did all the chatting. It was interesting that he's following Darren Bergwerf's advice. And Darren Bergwerf, you know, if you watch last Friday night's show, was very clear on how he feels about the vote. And that is, don't vote. It's illegal. It's unlawful. And it's only empowering the illegal bastards in government, because we know they too are unlawful and illegal. So get on board. Maybe that's a way forward. Think about it. What could you do by withdrawing your services, by withdrawing your business's services? You happen to own a fuel transport company. You happen to own petrol stations. You happen to own independent supermarkets. They're going to be hit. I'm sure that we'd like to think that they would support us. Would be great. There'd be more money in it for the independent petrol provider if they did support us, because at the moment they make the least of all the servo providers, because they have to discount to get people in their door, and they are paying very good rates, very, very expensive rates from those big companies that have servos all over the place and actually produce the fuels, the Shells, the BPs of the world. They're buying that fuel in and putting it through your 7-Eleven, whichever one it comes from. So they have to buy that at a certain rate, and then they make even less on it. That's why you find a lot of those non-corporate servos, the independent service stations, have a lot more offerings by way of food, drinks, and munchies and car bits and pieces and all that, usually, because they're aiming to make their money out of you in the shop, picking up stuff on the way to pay for the fuel you've bought, rather than just the fuel you bought. That's how it was explained to me, at least, not all that long ago. I want to show you something else that's happened today. I have to say, this is bloody wonderful. Outgoing Qantas CEO Alan Joyce could lose $14 million of his $21 million pay packet. Now, he has already been paid ostensibly about $7 million. The other 14 has been withheld. Why? Well, Qantas, the board, have decided in their infinite wisdom to keep that $14.4 million as they await the more detail coming from the Australian Consumer and Competition Commission investigation into the bullshit little operation that Joyce has been running for.
And what about Qantas? Hey, talk
Stop Chris there for a minute. This is all coming off news.com.au, so take it for what it is. It is news.com.au, but I did see it pop up just before the show came on. So Qantas, of course, are in the shit for taking money from people ostensibly months and months and months in advance while knowing flights had been cancelled. And that's not all of it. That's just part of it. So in the case of Alan Joyce's remuneration for financial year 23, in addition to the $2.2 million in short-term bonuses that have been withheld, a further $8.3 million of a total adjusted $21.4 million is subject to a clawback should the board determine that necessary. That was Mr. Goyder after the announcement. When combined with the additional long-term incentives already granted, a total of $14.4 million is subject to malus and clawback if considered necessary. I love the way they repeat themselves. The company posted a record profit, $2.47 billion in underlying profit in the last financial year. That was probably in due part because a lot of Chinese students got to come back. The ACCC are investigating Qantas at the moment. The allegations are untested, and the board understands that shareholders and community concerns about them are significant. So the good news is the whining, mincing little prick from Qantas may not get that $20.4 million. One would hope that he's just been quietly slipped off and is now enjoying his time on Guam. But couldn't be that lucky, could we? Couldn't be that lucky. All right. What else did I have for you tonight? I don't think there was too much else left on my board to share with you. Australia's shaming at the climate change thing. Now, there were some interesting things going and being said there. Gutierrez said the Earth has transitioned from global warming to an era of global boiling. Global boiling. Has anybody seen the seas boiling? I don't know. Haven't seen that. China and the United States, the world's top two emitters, will be absent from the speakers at the UN Climate Summit after promises only to include the most ambitious. Now, what that means is that China and the United States have said, nah, we're not playing your stupid game. Mr. Gutierrez, announcing the summit in December, said he would make the summit no nonsense and include only leaders of countries with concrete plans to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions. Guess where Penny frickin' Wong is at the moment, folks? Just guess where Penny frickin' Wong is. Yep, she's the one saying that we should be all over this. Australia will be 80% free of all carbon dioxide or carbon emitting things by 2030, with an aim of 2040, I think, to be 100% free. And she's been talking up how wonderful that Labor government is, that they're the only people that could do this. And, well, I don't think they could have done it without the help of the Liberals, just between you, me, and the gatepost. But they are truly screwing this country, folks. They're using a size 10 telephone pole and jamming it straight up our jacksie. It is a very unpleasant experience, and I can feel my cheeks starting to swell from the inside. I've had enough. Have you had enough? So what are we going to do about it? Email Rachel at vofhq.com. Let her know. She'll pass it on to me. All right, I'll switch back very quickly and have a look at the comments. Yeah, 10 cent, that'd be good. Ask him what the go is with the petrol stations. But yeah, we are the third largest exporter of fossil fuels in the goddamn bloody world. And we paying $2.30 a litre. I just don't believe it. You can't get to net zero. Well, let's hope we can get to net zero of the Labor Party, mate. We're going to have to mow a few of them down, but hopefully in what comes next, they just won't be there to be dealt with. Fingers crossed. But that's the only way we're going to get to net zero, get the net zero dickheads trying to control us. That's the net zero we need to get to. Yeah, Penny Wong, can't even call her a traitor. She's full of China. Yes, yeah. I'm sure there's a picture of her up behind certain members of the Chinese Communist Party's office walls or doors when they go there, because they have to be rubbing their hands together. Not just for her. I mean, it all started, or didn't just start, but Bill Carr, Bob Carr, was very, very involved with the Chinese. Very involved. Backhand deals and all sorts of shit. Both when he was New South Wales Premier, and then he got to step up to the big leagues. Remember, he became a senator. Oh, boy, did the pay packet get a fluff then, I can tell you. Bastards. Yeah, couldn't agree more with you, J1. Could not agree more. Marianne, I hear you, honey. I hear you. Yeah, it really is time to up the ante. But what can we do? Will withdrawing our services help? Do you have the ration packs? Do you have all that stuff you've stored away? Are you prepped and ready? Have you got the water? Have you got the food? Have you got the rice? Have you got the recipes? Well, if that's the case, maybe that's something we should try. We'll need a lot of us. Maybe Ricardo might come on and have a talk with us about his plans, and if he felt this was something worthwhile doing, a complete removal of your services, then maybe he'll come on and support that. I don't know. He's not doing much at the moment outside of talking in his own green room. So we don't really know what's going on there. But we do know that he does seem to be following the great advice of Darren Bergwerf, and that's great to see. I sort of expected him to be leading more, but that's okay. Following's not bad. Following the right idea, that's a good start. All right, folks, I'm going to love you and leave you for tonight. It has been an interesting night. Yeah, Summit Hill, you're 100% right. They have been slowly but surely de-refinerying us for some years. Steel mills and production plants, all big manufacturing has been closed down. And I was just talking to some people in Adelaide last week about that. All of those buildings are still there, and there is no reason we couldn't start up manufacturing again in this country. Yes, it would take some investment. It would take some maybe overseas skill. But if you've been following the news at all today, you'll know that the government is going to fling the doors open to highly paid overseas immigration workers And instead of it taking months or a year or more to get a working visa for a highly paid immigrant visa, it will take days. The threshold will be $150 or $120 to $150,000. So that's going to try and keep them probably out of the earnings market that you and I are in, but going to certainly put them into that really nice, sweet earning bracket, if you like. My question is, we had 400,000 new arrivals in Australia last financial year, and we can't put them all in houses now, although they come over really cashed up. You know, I haven't seen too many Indian families living in the back of high-ace, wagons and vans camped out beside roads, all up and down the roads of Queensland. I haven't seen too many Indian families doing that. And that's where a lot of these immigrants have come from. Now, a lot of these Chinese families and Chinese immigrants have come over and done exactly the same thing. Once again, don't see too many of them sleeping rough on the side of the road. Don't see too many of them sleeping in the car. Scratching my head to think of any, to be honest. So all these students that come back in from overseas, cashed up from Chinese mum and dads who are, millionaires or billionaires, and they send their kids out for the best education, usually in the hotel trade, just between you, me, and the gatepost, and some other areas, computer sciences. And they buy them houses to live in because they're going to be here for 4 years. And then they figure out, it's not a bad investment. Look at the rental money we can get. Or they just continue renting it to Chinese students who come out year after year after year after year after year. And obviously, as one falls out as they graduate, another one comes in at the bottom. So they've got them working like puppy mills on the Gold Coast. This is why we have problems with accommodation. Dan Andrews thinks he's got a fix. I saw today he's decided to slap a 7.5% tax on the likes of Airbnb and those sorts of accommodation providers. It's unclear whether or not that 7.5% tax, which would add, I think, about, I think somebody said in Melbourne, for a night in Melbourne, it would add $42 to the price of a room in Melbourne for the night. And further south, if you were down on the peninsula, it would add something like $112, assuming the price goes up down there as you go further south. But that's, pretty significant, a 7.5% whack. Now, are they charging Airbnb that? Are they charging the homeowner that? Are they charging the person who's renting the home through Airbnb or whatever provider that? What about the ones that aren't going through Airbnb or those sorts of providers? What about the ones that just advertise a place through the local papers and maybe a little network or Facebook group online, and they rent their place out every other day or every other week or every other weekend for good money? Do they have to get slugged with this 7.5% tax that Dan and the crew have decided to come up with in Victoria? Good luck with that. Ill thought out plans, but then again, it is Dan Andrews we're talking about, and he doesn't have to think about plans. Somebody else just makes it all happen for him. It's about the best way we can describe that. So, yeah. Follow the cash and find the trash. Bruce, ain't that the truth? What we need is more people seeking the truth, following the cash and finding the trash and bringing them to justice. As I keep saying, that's the bit we are lacking. Until we get an enforcement arm, and I feel it has to be a military enforcement arm. It can't be the people. It has to be the military. The people are very lucky. The military take an oath to serve the people. But I believe the military have lost their way. That has been forgotten. But I'm hopeful that there are many members who are starting to wake up to what's going on. I know some are. I've been in contact with them. But it's a softly, softly catchy monkey approach for them, and I guess for us. But without that help, I fail to see how we enforce our rights on the tyrants that are trying to kill us. So maybe you can help. Maybe you can help. come up with an idea. Be useful. All right, folks, I'm going to go. Don't forget, self-managed super funds. Have you had a look at what Big Super is doing at the moment? If you're still in it, my lordy me, you are brave. But if you want to get out of it, Cass Smith is the lady. Give me an email and I will pass your details on to her and the team. Mary Ann, who you saw on the show on Monday night, is one of her team. And, you know, you can see by the quality of Mary Ann's research, she is extremely thorough and great lady to boot. So please, if you're thinking about self-managed super funds, email me, and we will explain, well, Cass and the team will explain to you how it works. And depending on how much you've got, you may want to band together with some others that you know maybe in your family so that you can get a larger sum together and manage it that way. It's not hard to manage it. There's just a bit of paperwork to tick every 12 months. And the closer you are to retirement, the less long you're going to need to do that. But I will tell you, from my experience, it's much better to have your wealth in your pocket or under your control than having it in the bank. Much better. At some point, those bastards are going to have to drive home. You know what I mean? Well, you got to be careful. There are dickheads on the road.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!